My fiancé wanted to have an open relationship even though we were about to get married. I cancelled the wedding because of it 2 weeks ago. We were just 2 weeks away from getting married. She asked me to go to therapy with her. She was already seeing a therapist on her own and wanted me to go with her and have a talk before their wedding. She thought that would help us be completely honest with one another. I thought we already were completely honest with one another. After all, we were getting married in 2 weeks. She was really protective about her therapy sessions. She didn't really talk about them. I have never met her therapist. I was surprised to be invited there. I went on the day in question, but I had my phone open and recording any audio in case I needed to take notes. My fiancé was already there, so I had to wait 20 minutes before I was invited in. The therapist greeted me and shook my hand. We have a quick chat. She says I'm not at all like my fiancé described. I think she's trying to compliment me. Then she looks at my fiancé and says this might be harder than we thought. It did make me feel a bit weird, but I'm a calm and collected individual and I don't react. I just kept that dumb smile on. My face is a classic example of how we all react in awkward situations. The therapist starts talking and gives a short speech, which I won't repeat here. My fiancé takes my hand as the therapist starts telling me that we live in a modern world and that my fiancé wants us to have a non-conventional marriage moving forward. I smile, but I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm not sure what she means. I think she wants to talk about how she won't be a slave to her husband, won't sacrifice her work life, etc. She's talking about how once we get married, she wants to be free to sleep with other men. It was a pretty unusual type of marriage proposal. I forgot it's 2018, but she loves me a lot and would not be comfortable with me having the same benefits because she would be too heartbroken knowing that I find other women attractive and that one of them could steal me from her. So I let them finish talking. They were very fluent. They got more confident talking, probably because I wasn't saying anything. This was definitely something they'd rehearsed. I then asked the therapist if she was licensed to do this. Based on her reaction, it wasn't what she expected. The first thing she said was yes, so. I told her to explain to my fiancé why we won't be getting married anymore and why we won't continue being a couple, starting immediately. I wished them good luck and left the office. Now I want to report the therapist. I'm not sure if I have to report her to the clinic or if there's a board that supervises. I don't think the therapist was trying to corner me as a professional. I want her to pay for the misconduct. That session didn't go well. To be clear, there would have been no positive outcome to this talk between my fiancé and the therapist even if she wanted a completely open marriage. I could have slept with other women. The outcome for me would have been the same. That's not a marriage. That's a sham. I also realized she might have cheated on me. Now that I have this clarity of mind. Certain things don't match up. So I was a fool anyway. I listened to the recording. And I still can't. I believe what was said there. Anyway, I called off the wedding. I am a very easygoing guy. There are no fights with me because I'm not seeking them. There are no conflicts or enemies because my life is guided on principle and common sense. That might have given my ex the impression I will be easy to walk over. I'm not a doormat, but she's wrong to think that. I've listened to the recording a few times and I'm confident the therapist recognized I'm not how my fiancé described me in their sessions. That means this may be harder than we thought. Now the wedding is no longer happening, people are starting to ask. I'm not sure how to handle this. I'm sure my ex is trying to limit the damage, but I have the recording. If she goes too far, I'll share what she wanted us to talk about. My parents and family also want answers, and I'm not sure what to tell them. I don't want them to think I'm an idiot for allowing my ex to get to this point where she was so confident that she straight out told me she wants to sleep with other guys. She's also been calling my phone, my best friend's phone and my brother's phone. We can work on this. I didn't understand what they were telling me in the therapy session. She'll do anything to fix this. It was the therapist's idea. She was against it, etc. Last cry of a dying siren. All her cries fall on deaf ears. I'm the owner of set ears. We were also working to get a loan to buy a house. But I cancelled everything. I basically erased any ties we had financially. Or otherwise, her current plea is that in therapy, she exposed her insecurities about our sexual history. I had considerably more partners than her, and the therapist came up with the idea that we should level the field, regardless of the truth of this. That therapist needs to be reported. Once I figure out where to do it and what to say. This post is mostly a rant, but I would also want to know how you would handle questions from friends and family. My ex is certainly doing her own damage control, and I don't want to be in the middle of a he said, she said situation. I do have the recording and I'm wondering if I should send it to the interested parties. My ex, she doesn't know I have the recording. I'm at work and I just got confirmation that my ex has got the journal back. I sent it with the courier in the morning and she had to sign for it. Some people have said I should read it, but I don't think it will help because she never took ownership of the situation. If this was a prank, I asked him if he wanted to hear the recording. He said yes, so I played it for him. Your ex here asked me to have a chat with you, or your ex wants you to know we decided to write 2 letters, one to the clinic where the therapist works and one to APA. We checked that she was accredited, and by Wednesday, a few more people at work were aware of the situation, including one of the 2 case researchers. She looked up information about the therapist online, including reviews and the contacts for 2 of her previous patients. The therapist didn't have the best reviews, and we managed to track the 2 we talked with through social media. They were happy to help once we explained the situation, and their stories were not the letters were getting longer and included more details. We added the sign, stories from the other 2 individuals, as well as my own account of how my ex changed once she started the therapy sessions. We also included a detailed description of how my meeting with the therapist went. On Friday last week, I met with her parents. They came to my parents' house and we had the talk. My ex was there too, and we shared more information that made its way to the report on the therapist as well. It was either a prank or a real issue. We spoke with their lawyer or one of their lawyers on the phone. When we confirmed it was legitimate, someone else was heard in the background on their end. They said they are taking this very seriously. One of the guys at work said they probably received other complaints before, but this is the first time someone did it, so it's well documented. Their letter also mentioned that we are reporting this to APA, which might have turned the heat on as well. Hence their quick reaction. I don't know what the result of this will be, and I consider my issue with it closed. However, I've spoken to the other 2 people who were treated by this therapist. I really hope she's investigated because she sounds crazy and with an agenda. She also ruined their relationships. One of them was a woman. For the record, then my ex and her parents. Friday last week, my parents. She called me and asked me to drop by after work. When I did, my ex and her parents were there too. My first reaction seeing their cars in my parents' driveway was to flee. This meeting was supposed to be on my terms, but she tried to take control of it. That was not going to happen. Let me tell you. My ex was waiting for me outside. She looked great. If there was ever a girl you'd like your parents to meet, she was the one. She told me they were there to talk with me and see if we could fix this. They were with her parents. She either never told them what happened or gave them a version of the story. They weren't convinced. She had a journal with her. She told me she started writing in it before she began therapy and continued writing in it until that Friday morning. She said I should read it and it would clear up all this mess. I told her this isn't a book club. I wanted to go inside and get the ball rolling, but she asked if I could spare 10 minutes to talk. She wanted to talk to me for 10 minutes before she talked to her parents. She kept handing me her journal and started crying. My sister showed up, as did my ex's sister. They were already there and came out to check on us. I took her journal. I said hello and left my ex in the back of the garden, in the least accessible part of my parents' garden. They have a big garden with lots of trees and benches. She quit her job because the stress was too much and she had a breakdown. It got worse and she stopped seeing the therapist. She started seeing the therapist for work-related matters, but it turned into discussions about our relationship. The therapist seemed interested in that topic. She never told her parents why she is my ex. She is seeing another therapist now. I just listened. She shifted the focus of the conversation from herself to us. She said I'd be in charge of the finances, that I'd have access to all her devices, and that I could track her movements. She also said that any property we owned would be in my name. She said she'd do whatever I wanted. I want to trust her again. Over the past few weeks, she's mentioned more things than I've mentioned. I don't know how she thinks that would be a healthy life for either of us. I asked her if she'd cheated. She told me she'd had the chance to cheat, but she'd never done it. I believe her, but it also angered me. What does she mean she'd had the chance? If you're in a committed relationship, you don't put yourself in a position where you have this kind of opportunity. You don't want this kind of opportunity. It's like saying, I had the opportunity to kill someone today. Why? What were you doing that there was such an opportunity? Why call it an opportunity anyway? It makes it sound like something positive. It sounded like something positive, but it pretty much ended our 10 minutes. We told her we should go and talk with our parents, so we did. I asked our sisters to leave us alone because it was not their concern. I told her that what was to be discussed was between us. My sister got angry, but a house made of stone survives hurricanes. I talked to them and explained what happened in the therapy session and why I was so upset. I didn't mention I had a recording because I never had to. My ex confirmed everything I said, which surprised me. Her father had teary eyes, which broke my heart. Her mother asked her if this is how she thinks they raised her and asked for an explanation. My ex basically told them the same story: stress at work, depression, breaking down, therapy, and a therapist who wanted to talk only about our relationship. The therapist told her that our relationship was the root of all her stress. I want an open relationship. She said she might lose me if she doesn't level up her sexual experience with me. How my reaction woke her up from her slump. I was trying to say that if someone's private journals become literature, it's usually because they are a famous writer or leader. And usually, they're published after they die. I was also hoping she'd get the hint that I don't really want to read her journal because it would be of no consequence. What was done was done. Everyone. She looked at me as if I wished death on my ex. There was a palpable sense of hostility in the air. I said, fine, and promised I would read her journal. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes you use the wrong words, and you lose a few more. My ex is seeing a new therapist. She showed her parents emails confirming her appointments. He's an older guy with a white beard like Freud. I did a quick search and found out he's married, attends conferences and has written a few books that are available on Amazon. He seems like a solid character. Can you kids work this out? This was the second thing that angered me that day. It feels like we're being treated like children and we should just listen to the adults. We're not old enough to be in control of our own feelings. And we definitely shouldn't be the ones to decide what we consider a betrayal you can't recover from. We're just kids and we should just work it out. So I got back some ground on the Dead Poets Society remark earlier, and this is how the day ended. We've known each other for 9 years and have been a couple for 5 years. Even if there are legitimate reasons behind her behavior, how do you go back to being the same? This wasn't even a reset. My way of thinking about my ex has been fundamentally changed. She became a stranger. I know a lot of things about her. I still find her attractive. In fact, she was very attractive last Friday. No denying that. But it was also calculated. I'm not going to lie to you. She had her hair done the way I like it, a dress that I bought for her, the shoes I like the most, a hint of the perfume I gifted her, etc. The journal is on my nightstand. I haven't read it and I probably never will. I did take a quick look through it to see if it's a year old, and it is. You can see the page is folded in a certain way, the ink is clearly older on the first few pages, and you can see it progress through the pages. The pen she used was attached to the journal, and I tested it. It looks like the same pen. The ink level in the pan is consistent with how much I assume the pan has been used for the last year to write the journal. It's not a fake. Everything about it is consistent with the year's worth of wear and tear. I don't see what good reading it will do for me. It's not really a tool to play with one's mind. I don't think she intended to use it as manipulation when she started writing it a year ago. If what she told me is right, her new therapist suggested the idea of sharing the journal with me. As for how I am handling people that are too curious about why their wedding is off, we had a huge difference of opinion that we could not find a solution to. But if her sister finds out why, and this is more than likely because her sister is very close to their mother, everyone will find out the real reason why. Our parents want us to meet again next week. They told me to read the journal and maybe that helps. Maybe we need to work on this. We should start again. It's important to start afresh, given our history. She will get treatment. She will get better. She is still the same woman I fell in love with. However, she is not well right now. They can tell I still love her. Or else I would not be so theatrical. Those are her words, not mine. I don't think I will meet them next Friday. She did look amazing, though. I'd like to thank the community for the support and help. Your input was invaluable in helping me put together a plan of action regarding the therapist. Thank you. A few years down the line, I'll give you an update. The therapist is no longer working for the clinic. I'm pretty sure the reason is that the clinic is being sued by someone else who is suing them. I don't have any more details about the case. The therapist tried to contact Mirella but couldn't get hold of her. I think she'd probably found out about my report and was trying to get in touch. Who knows? Mirella didn't engage with her. She was blocked and her queries went unanswered. There's a voice deep in the back of my mind that whispers it may not have been the smartest move. I've decided to put together that report. I know it might lead to people behind the lawsuit contacting me for help, which could result in a lot of unwanted attention. Even so, I can't stop smiling, knowing the therapist is in trouble. To those who have expressed out I have emotions, if this isn't proof enough. I don't know what will satisfy you, and I hope you understand sarcasm. With Mirella, however, things are far more complicated. I wrote a short update in my previous post about her journal. I decided to return it and was very clinical in my method. The courier was I used work to get the journal to her on Monday morning. I also sent her a letter explaining why I hadn't read it. It all came down to me not taking ownership of the situation. I felt like she was washing her hands of the matter by giving me the journal. She was leaving me to find answers. I took the initiative to return the journal. I felt a sense of regret immediately after they informed me that it had been returned. I thought about reading it later that day, but Morella showed up at my workplace. She didn't make a scene. She just waited in the lobby patiently. My plan was to wait for me until I finished my day and then have a chat with me. Of course, it didn't take long for me to find out she was there. I had a couple of options. I could either send her away or talk to her. So we talked. Several architects designed the collapse of our relationship. I knew about it, but I didn't realize how serious it was until later. When she started looking for a therapist to help with work stress, I should have been more aware of the situation. But she always said everything was fine, so I didn't think there was anything to worry about. Even after she saw the therapist, she still had a breakdown at work. She told me and her family about it, but it was still a breakdown. 2. I could have been a father. She had a miscarriage. She found out she was pregnant and wanted to make it special when she would have told me about it. However, a few days later she started bleeding and that was it. She never told me about this because she was afraid I would look at her as unworthy. She knows how much I want to be a father. She rationalized that this would give me ideas. She can't bear children. This idea is utterly stupid. 3. Friends. I've always been open about the fact that we have friends in open relationships. In fact, she contacted Morella almost a year ago and invited her to lunch. She immediately started sharing the frustrations of her failed marriage with Morella. Interestingly, her husband has something in common with me. We both had far more partners than our significant others. In my case, it was 26 previous partners. In the case of this friend's husband, the number was a whopping 70. The number was a whopping 70. Well, as soon as they got married, he demanded an open relationship from his wife. And she has been miserable ever since. It seems the same thing was going to happen to Morella if she was not careful about me. This friend told Morella, I am showing the same signs as her husband before they got married. Number 4, those we love are not who we think they are. Our fathers both work in academia and knew each other, for they often go to work-related events and parties together, usually with their wives. I met Mirella at such an event. I went with my father because I was interested in meeting a professor who could have helped me with my career. Mirella replaced her mother because they had a scheduling conflict and her mother couldn't attend. Or so she was told. It turns out her parents were going. Mirella only found out about her father's infidelity recently when she talked with her mother about the concerns raised by the friend from number 3. Her parents were the perfect couple, a model to follow, so this was a big shock. They managed to keep the illusion of a perfect marriage throughout the process. And that's how you end a relationship. The therapist was really happy to plan my open relationship. She confirmed everything the friend said. Men like me will never be satisfied with one woman. I will eventually look for more. If I love Mirella, I'll understand. This plan has 3 benefits. It'll correct my cheating behavior, confirm my love for her and strengthen our relationship. This plan would have obviously failed, and I think this is exactly what the therapist was looking for. Our relationship would of course not have survived. What the therapist didn't expect was how fast I would react. At least, this is my hypothesis right now. The rest of the week, we met every day and she answered all my questions. I was ready to end things, but she was the opposite. She was ready for the fight of her life if it meant our relationship could be saved. At the end of the week, I had to leave for another city for work-related matters and I was gone for a month. Originally it was supposed to be a 2-week trip, but it had to be extended for another 2 weeks. Billable hours. Har har. Before I left, I gave Morella a copy of the therapy session recording. She knew I had it It was one of the first things I talked to her about when she showed up at my workplace on Monday. Listening to the recording shook her to the core. What she remembered about the therapy session was very different from what was on the recording. I think she finally realized where all my actions and behavior towards her came from. From the people at home knew about my work trip, and for the next 3 weeks I was left to my own devices with minimal interference from anyone, which was great. Several people in the comments offered to have a beer with me if I ever happened to be in their city. I took someone up on it for the first time, and it was a good experience. He and his wife were wonderful people. In the 4th week, Mirella came to visit and we stayed in touch. Over the previous 3 weeks, we had been discussing various topics, always about us. One major issue had to be sorted out after our wedding. We had planned to go to France for 2 weeks, which we thought would be a great honeymoon trip. However, neither of us were able to do it immediately after the wedding, so we booked it 3 months later. We had already paid for the plane tickets, which were non-refundable. It would have been great if companies could do this. We also had the hotel reservations. What we didn't have was us in that 4th week. We talked some more and agreed to go to France anyway, as friends. I can already imagine some of you rolling your eyes as you read that last sentence. France was amazing. You visit a country like that and realize the US is medieval in comparison. When you visit a museum, you can spot the Americans immediately. How to behave in a foreign country should be a mandatory course in our schools. We returned from France as a couple of things. This had nothing to do with the magic of Paris. It will take time to get back to our former selves. We are not back to our former selves. There is some rebuilding to be done. We have agreed on several things, in no particular order. She is looking for a new job, one that is less stressful. Our friends in open marriages are now deemed a toxic influence, and we will no longer associate with them. We both like the name Morella and our first daughter. We'll go with this name. Thanks, France. Be open and honest with your partner. I'm really annoyed about this. We'll get a puppy in a kitten. She'll keep seeing her current therapist for a while. When we do get married, we'll do it for us. A smaller ceremony with just us and immediate family. We'll probably go to Italy next. I suppose this isn't the exciting update everyone was waiting for. Many have asked for an. Just to give you a heads up, if you were looking for anger and revenge, I'm sure there's a version of this where all that and more are possible. But as I said from the beginning, I didn't hate Morella. My actions were nothing more than self-preservation. At the time, her actions indicated she wanted something that was contrary to what I thought. We both agreed that those worried about her mental state had no reason to be concerned. Once the vapors of her therapist's her influence has dissipated, and she's returned to her former self. It's impossible not to be changed by these events, but she's in a very good place. You'll remember she offered me control over the finances to track her location at all times, open access to all her devices, etc. Aside from the lack of interest in such a lifestyle, for my part, they were just a way of trying everything to continue discussion. We do agree we should be open with our devices. And just so you know, we've always been open about that. So there's nothing to worry about there. As for finances, we'll do what we've always done, share them. Thanks to those who have talked with me in the comments and private messages. There was some valuable advice I received from some of you. And I'll be forever grateful for that. Writing these posts has been therapeutic. And interacting with you guys has been a great way to relieve some pressure.